Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing 5 films you should see from the Criterion Collection if you want to feel optimistic, hopeful, uplifted. These are films that are the exact opposite of the list that I made of Criterion films for cynics. So I thought I'd do a companion piece to that, one for optimists as well. If you're looking for cynical stuff though, check out that video. The first of these is one of the most beautifully perfect movies I've ever seen. One of my very favorite comedies. Just such a tender, emotionally filled, happy, good-natured movie. This is called City Lights, which I talk about any chance I get. This is Charlie Chaplin's greatest film in my mind, followed closely by a few other really good ones. But basically, he's playing his typical tramp character, wandering about, stumbling about in life, and he meets this millionaire who only remembers him. So the millionaire has to get drunk, and then he takes Charlie's character with him, and then they do drunk stuff. And it's hilarious, some of the scenes, and then he forgets about him when he's sober. And as part of this whole ruse, Charlie Chaplin may be trying to use some part of this to help this young blind woman who he's falling in love with, and this is one of the best on-screen romantic connections between two characters. It's so beautifully done. There are scenes that will just touch your heart in such a special way. I highly recommend seeing City Lights if you haven't. In fact, if I had not seen any other silent film, I might actually start with this. It's only 86 minutes, and you won't care that it's silent. So if you're someone who's typically against silent films, you should definitely see this. I think you'll enjoy it. And it just has some of his very best sight gags, and the heart in it's tremendous. The second film was one that recently came out in the collection and I did a whole review on. And whenever I was going to my shelf and trying to pick up the optimistic movies, I had to talk about this again because this is just such a good movie if you want to feel good. And if you want to vibe with cool music and just, it's an optimistic kind of film. This is called Chungking Express. Now, for a film that has gangster elements and crime in it, I think it's overall really optimistic. So this is about these two cops that you get different stories, they interweave, and it's not really a traditional narrative in a linear way. But they both are missing a loved woman. But the way the story develops, you start to gain some kind of a hope that it'll be okay. Like, it's okay that these relationships haven't panned out necessarily the way the characters thought they should. And I think especially by the end, you come away with a sense that life can be random, it can be difficult to process sometimes, particularly and when you're a little bit younger, maybe in your 20s or something like that. But the optimism is there nonetheless. I think it's there in the editing, it's there in the visuals. Like, it has an infectious energy to it. And it includes, some real life stars of the time, including Faye Wong, who is great in this. She's a fun little waitress in this world that's created. You know what? There's so much delicious looking food in this film that you just want to go grab a bite to eat, with some buddies or something. And for a movie that has so much loneliness in it, I never really felt completely alone. I don't know. It's given me a joy lately to think about the film. And so I wanted to add that into here. Of course, California Dreamin' is played multiple times in here. They talk about that even on the back. But I don't know, to me the film's kind of optimistic. And so I put it on this list, and I was wondering if anybody else kind of walked away from that film feeling good. I don't know. I think it is. So you'll have to let me know if you agree or disagree with that choice. The next film is a film that I have had up and down thoughts about, but it definitely belongs in the collection. And it certainly is a great work of optimism, of hope, and sort of the undying resolution of the human spirit. This is called Close Up. Now, this was directed by Abbas Kiarostami. It is his probably most well-known film. And it's an Iranian film. It's kind of like so the back of the movie calls it a fiction documentary hybrid. And there was a real life event that happened. So it was the arrest of a man on charges that he was impersonating a filmmaker. And that is used as this blend of fiction and documentary, but where it goes and how the story plays out and the trial and all the events and what we learned about this man, it does become pretty inspirational. Now, I have not necessarily, the first time I watched this, I wasn't necessarily as engaged as some people are. This is in some people's top 10. Like, this is a film that a lot of people love. Scorsese loved it. And I want to go back and see it again to see if I even have a better view of it. Perhaps I was too cynical at the time, but it is a very famous movie, and I think it fits this topic well. So if you all like Close Up, I think there's another one of these coming to the collection relatively soon to the time of this video. And you'll have to let me know what your thoughts are on Close Up if you've seen it, because I'm a little bit less overall familiar with this director. It is quite a far cry from Taste of Cherry, which this director also is known for. But yeah, Close Up might make you feel good inside by the time you get to the end of it. You just got to hang with it. All right, I'm not going to be talking about optimism without bringing up Yasujiro Ozu, who is frequently a very depressing director. My favorite. I've been watching Wim Wenders again, and I know that he was so inspired by Yasujiro Ozu, and I have such a respect for this filmmaker. I could just never recommend his films enough. This is a film called Good Morning, and just for what it's worth, this is such a beautiful cover with these two young men on the front of it. But it's another one of these generational relationship stories. If you know Ozu, you know that he likes to talk about, father-son, father-daughter, kid-parent, that kind of thing. And, there's a lot of little gags in here about these kids who end up on sort of a strike of words. They refuse to talk until they get something that they want. There's a little bit of gossiping in the story. There's some nice little interactions that have to do with neighborhood drama. There's some consumerism kind of satire in there as well that I think you'll like. There's a funny door-to-door salesman, and it's all shot in Technicolor. In fact, I talked about satire. The film, the back of the film here in the Criterion version says it is to gently satirize consumerism in post-war Japan. And I think you're going to see that there. And it's just a tremendous looking film. I think it's like the perfect 11 o'clock a.m. Saturday morning lazy day kind of film to watch. So give Good Morning a chance if you haven't. It's one of Ozu's great films among many. And I think it's going to make you feel good inside. And finally, the film that is maybe one of the most optimistic, pure pieces of movie making I've ever seen that just, gosh, you walk away and you feel like you could literally fly. This is called Wings of Desire. Wim Wenders, which I just talked about. I've been watching, I'm getting through the Road trilogy right now. Really enjoying that. But this is one of his best films. This is about a couple of angels who are, and they're in Berlin. They're interacting with humans, unbeknownst to humans. You hear the thoughts of the humans that they're interacting with. And they're doing what they can. And one of the angels decides that he wants to become a human because he's falling in love with someone on Earth. And it also features a really fun performance from Peter Falk, who you might recognize from A Woman Under the Influence, that great film from Cassavetes. It's a film that really empowers you. It makes you feel as if humanity is not an exercise in fruitful loneliness. Instead, we are all interconnected, whether we know it or not, and that somehow good things can happen to us even. It's not that spiritual or religious of a film. It's very rooted in just the everyday humanity that we all face, any kind of struggle. And there are some sad moments, but overall you walk away from the film, I think you'll feel really good about life and about your chances of making it out there. So those are the films I thought of that kind of, I just sort of pulled them off the shelf, maybe my first thoughts, If you liked the video, found it to be helpful, if you want to click the like button, I would appreciate that. That does grow the channel. And then tell me what are some of your optimistic picks, or how do you feel about what I chose there? And consider subscribing if you haven't. I have lots of these Criterion related videos and a lot of other stuff you might be interested in. We'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.